the PFF YouTube channel. I'm George Chahrouri. I'm joined by the QB whisperer himself, Zac Robinson. We are going to be talking about Jimmy G, doing a little profile on what we saw from him last season. Before we get started, remember, if you want all the data, get yourself a PFF Elite subscription. And not only will you get Premium Stats version 2, you'll also get the Quarterback Annual. A lot of that stuff we've actually got queued up right here to talk about, so you can pore over it for yourself. PFF Elite. All right, Jimmy G, he won some games last year, but that's not the reason we're going to talk about him. He went 5-0. He could have gone 2-3. It's what he actually did on the field that has us so excited.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you look at the win-loss, yeah, that's a great thing to look at, but his actual play and what he did, that if they lost a couple of those games, we would still feel the exact same way we would feel about him as we're talking today. So, he's shown it. The two starts he had in New England, arguably was the best player on the field those two games, and especially that Dolphin game before he got hurt. And then he was able to just sustain that type of play in an entirely new system, learning new plays all last year on the fly, and just had some incredible play.
Yeah, I mean, third overall in terms of accuracy, using actual ball location, right?
Yeah.
Not just completion percentage. All right, let's kind of break it down here. The first thing that comes to mind when you think of, okay, here's what Jimmy G excelled at last season.
Yeah, definitely. You mentioned the accuracy. He's just got such a quick release, very quick-minded guy. And then after you look at the accuracy, you just look at his overall sense for the pocket. I mean, he's got great instincts in the pocket. His mobility to extend plays is something that is definitely a huge strength for him. And you see the Kyle Shanahan system, they want to get the bootleg game going, and his ability to throw on the move and do those different things, extend the play in the pocket, outside the pocket, is a huge, huge asset for him.
So you're telling me maybe he snuck into the TB12 facility at some point,
there, yeah.
Got some mobility here. So let's take a look at a couple of clips that we've got here that you've queued up, because apparently there's some proof in the pudding here.
Yeah, no, definitely. His under pressure numbers last season were incredible. He was the top graded guy under pressure, both from inside the pocket when he was taking hits as well as extending the play. So this first one we're going to take a look at is an example of just him standing in there and being able to get a quick trigger throw in the face of pressure. So let's go ahead and run the clip. We're going to have a motion here. The Niners love motion. They're going to get the communication on the back end, a deep cross. And you can see he's got a guy in his face right away. That's actually on Jalen Ramsey. I wouldn't say that this is necessarily a scheme win, but just overall great throw. Jimmy Garoppolo under pressure. Jalen Ramsey, accurate throw. This is just something we saw time and time again. The Chicago Bears game, he had number of throws where he's under pressure, throwing dig routes in the middle of the field. So his in the pocket, under pressure, snapping throws off was really impressive.
Interesting thing about play under pressure, it's not generally the most stable thing season to season. So, do we expect him to be first in grade under pressure next year? Maybe not.
Yeah.
But it's a heck of a lot better to do really well at it, than to do poorly. So I think this is something like, obviously we're excited about the way that he performed here.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, if he can continue to play at that level under pressure, it's it'd be pretty incredible. But he should still remain in the top half of the league under pressure just because of his quick release, like we just saw, and ability to just overall extend.
All right, so we saw what he can do standing tall in the pocket under pressure. What about moving around, getting outside the pocket, and continuing to make plays?
Yeah, no, that's definitely something that shows up time and time again, just his overall feel and instincts in the pocket, and then the mobility to get outside. This is a great clip against the Jacksonville Jaguars last season, but let's go ahead and roll this clip. It's a 3rd and 4 play inside the red zone, and we're going to see just his overall sense for the pocket, ability to extend the play, and get this thing out on the move and throw an accurate throw.
There's a reason that he was our 3rd highest graded quarterback from outside the pocket. I mean, that doesn't happen by accident, and you can see here why.
Yeah, exactly. He's got his eyes up at all times, feels the rush, delivers an accurate throw, 3rd and 4, huge play. They end up scoring on this drive, a few plays later. So obviously it was a big play in that game.
Yeah, the accuracy is so huge too, because you can get any athlete out there. They can move around, they can elude, but then can they make the play on the back end? That's a testament to how he ended up grading so darn well outside of the pocket. We also think about when he's just moved off the spot. Again, 3rd highest grade for any quarterback in the NFL last season. It's incredibly impressive.
Last play we're going to take a look at here is another example of him extending the play, using his mobility to get outside the pocket. We saw the other clip was on a 3rd down inside the red zone. This is a 3rd and goal inside the 10. They're at the 5-yard line here. You can see tight ball game, but again, just another example of Jimmy G working through a progression. He's going to see on the front side, he's not going to like this. They're going to get an overloaded look from the defense to this side. He's going to come off of this look, scramble out to the left side, and make an incredible throw. Let's go ahead and roll the clip and take a look here. But as you can see, it gets jumbled over here. He doesn't like it. He steps up. And George, how he's able to get that ball off in the face of pressure, pretty incredible throw. I think you mentioned the Aaron Rodgers like on some of these throws, which is exactly what it looks like. You can see he comes off of it, scramble plays. We saw him time and time again last season. Not only is he making plays, but he's been a very consistent decision maker. He had 0 turnover-worthy throws on scramble plays, on second looks. So when he's processing and going to his second read and getting on the move, throwing a scramble play, he's making very consistent decisions.
Yeah, and you mentioned that mobility was on point there, right? The swivel of the hips, the turn, it was perfect. It was like, maybe he's a mobile quarterback. Who knows? Tied for 7th in terms of lowest sack rate under pressure. Just another testament to the fact that when things aren't going perfectly to script, he's getting to that second look, making the right play. So we talked about his play under pressure, play outside of the pocket. What's the next thing that you come to in terms of what Jimmy G did well last season?
Yeah, I think just overall decision making, the turnover-worthy throw numbers. He's had, we have him for 4 over the past 2 seasons. We're still working on somewhat of a small sample size, but that consistency over that amount of time looks to bode pretty well. But he had a couple interceptions last season that weren't directly pegged on him, that we kind of absolved him for. So you see that just down-to-down consistency with his accuracy, mobility, and then obviously you need a great decision maker and to avoid turnovers in the NFL, and that's exactly what you got.
I'm really glad you mentioned that, and the reason is we just talked about something that is generally not stable season to season. So play under pressure, it's a smaller sample, they're unique plays, and so we see a lot of fluctuation. So because he was first in grade under pressure, I'm not expecting him to be first next season. I think he'll be good, right? But first is a little bit of a, it's less stable. The great thing is turnover-worthy play rate is something that in general is very stable season to season. And he was 5th best in the NFL at avoiding turnover-worthy plays. As you mentioned, only 4 turnover-worthy throws in the past 2 seasons. And sometimes we get the wrong idea by looking at a raw interception total. So 3 of his 5 interceptions were plays that we wouldn't necessarily peg on the quarterback. And that's huge because in those small samples, you can go from, oh, this guy's turning the ball over to actually, he's a pretty safe quarterback.
Exactly, and we saw it with Matt Ryan a season ago as well. Low number of turnover-worthy throws. Then you look at the actual plays that have interceptions in the box score. These are plays that are deflected off of guys, catchable passes, deflected up in the air, fluke-type plays. So it's easy for everybody to always look at that box score. I know as a quarterback, I used to check it right away, but then in the back of your mind, you kind of know, I had a couple plays I got away with, or even on the other side, like we're saying, there's no way that should have been an interception. It was off my guy's hands or whatever happened. So, having that turnover-worthy throw thing that we track is definitely a great way to just say, okay, yes, there's some luck involved with certain ones that guys get away with, as well as on the other side like we saw with Jimmy G.
I mean, it's a mathematical fact. Interceptions, touchdowns, these are things that they spike all over the place. They're not stable season to season, and when you test it out, big-time throws, turnover-worthy plays, even just looking at positive and negatively graded plays, those are far more stable season to season. So you look at something like negatively graded throws, he was 6th best in the NFL. I'll go ahead and read you the top 5: Brees, Brady, Rodgers, Roethlisberger, Ryan.
Yeah.
Decent players, right? I mean, you talk about Matt Ryan, he had interceptions coming off guys' butts last season.
Right.
We don't want to count, we don't want take guys down a peg because of those things. So I think it's so important to look at it through that lens. Jimmy G also 2nd lowest uncatchable throw rate. Just giving guys a chance is so big.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you guys just uncanny accuracy. The way that he's able to process reads is something that just always sticks out, and we see it a very, very consistent game. If we would like to see something maybe spike up, it's the 20-plus plays. Some of those, we're still working on a small sample size, but he's never going to be a guy that's just going to be able to chunk 50-yard posts like we saw Patrick Mahomes a week ago, but he does have the ability to push the ball to the perimeter, good touch on go routes and those types of things, but definitely something to kind of keep your eye on this season.
That's a great point because there weren't a ton of those 20-plus plays. And I guess my question to you is, when you're thinking about the list of things that you care about for a quarterback, where does that rank on your list?
Yeah, I think it's big. Anytime you can get a 20-plus play and you're flipping the change of the field, you're not having to sustain drives. We've seen it's incredibly hard to just consistently sustain drives in the NFL. You got to have those chunk plays. That's where we'd like to see him spike up a little bit, but that's also where Kyle Shanahan can help out as well. So he has those plays in him. Last year it just didn't show up as much. We saw it even last week in the preseason, delivered a nice go ball on the left side, so just kind of more of those plays to come. But, it's definitely in the top 5 of what you'd like to see, and I think he still has that.
That's another example of an unstable data point, right? 20-plus yard throws don't happen a lot. And so because of that, 1 or 2 can make a big difference in how we perceive a guy actually playing on those sample of plays. So it's something that, like the pressure stuff, I would expect to go more towards the mean. The good thing is that when we look at things that are stable, he was rock solid, as we've talked about. He was a cluster 1 quarterback last season. The other cluster 1 quarterbacks, Russell Wilson, Matt Ryan, Tom Brady, pretty decent group to be a part of. He was 3rd in grade from a clean pocket. Another thing that we know, bigger sample size, more stable. So I think that gives us some reason to be optimistic, regardless of the record. Let me ask you this. 5 years, you've got 5 years, you got to pick 1 quarterback. Where does Jimmy G fall?
Man, you look at, you got Tom Brady, Phillip Rivers, Drew Brees, Roethlisberger. Those guys, in 5 years, I wouldn't think that they'd be around. But, and then you look at Aaron Rodgers should be around. I would say I would take Aaron Rodgers. And then you're looking for that next group of, consistently perennial top 5 guys. And I think that Jimmy G falls right into that category. I think he's got everything that we've seen statistically and then just, what we've seen with his ability to just throw with accuracy and extend the play, all those things that you need in today's NFL game with the pass rush so fierce. So I think everything he's been able to show up to this point, I would say he could perennially be a top 5 guy once, all those guys have moved on.
I'm going to take it one step further. Probably the only guy that I'm taking over him, Rodgers, and then it's a toss-up for me between Wilson and Garoppolo. I think Russell's done it for so long. We talk about clean pocket stuff. The guy is phenomenal and probably maybe has a bigger sample size of those 20-plus yard throws thrown with accuracy. So I think Russell probably edges him for me. But
I don't hate that.
I'm a Jimmy G believer here. So I'm going Jimmy G, number 2 on my list of guys 5 years down the road. All right, that's it for us. Remember, you can get all the data that you could possibly want with a PFF Elite subscription. The Quarterback Annual has a ton of the stuff that we just talked about. And follow us at ProFootballFocus.com.